And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today, we're talking about Star Trek, the animated series, The Infinite Vulcan. And I'm so excited to have the crew back, but also our special guest who's finally come on for the first time. Aaron, how are you?
Oh, I'm good.
So nice
Excited
to
to be
see
here.
you. Nice to see you on this side of the
I'm here in
chat.
Fallujah, just hanging out.
Cool planet.
Yeah.
Aaron, we have a tradition, as I talked to you a little bit about welcoming our new guests by checking out their Star Trek story. So if you don't mind telling us how you got into Star Trek, and then also tell us about something you contributed to Star Trek. You contributed a lot of things to Star Trek, but a particular something that's relevant to our discussion.
Let's sit down and
how'd you get into it?
My grandfather got me interested in it. He worked for Lockheed, and looking back now, I mean, he was like a VP and stuff but realizing what his like books in his office were and the stuff that he watched, I'm like, oh, he was basically like a geek. But it was the 1960s, so it wasn't, you wouldn't ever say that. So he at one time he went to Australia to view a bunch of like engines for Rolls-Royce, and they're all sitting out and they kind of looked like dialects. And so somebody knew that he liked Doctor Who, so in the company newsletter they had drawn all of it's like exterminate, they like headed towards him arriving. It was just like so weird to find that, and like I didn't know any of that when he was alive, unfortunately, because that would have been an amazing conversation to have. But he got me interested in Star Trek. We would sit down, and every night I would sit down, and like 6 o'clock or whenever it kind of reran, we'd watch it together. And he would be like, that like the what is it, the center, the navigator, the circular part of the center console, what was that called? The astrogator.
Right.
The astro is like, that's ridiculous. It's like we have more sophisticated computers now. Why would it's like? So I think I got that part of my Star Trek, like, wait a second, this doesn't make sense, sort of from him. But so no, he was the one who got me interested, and then I found the animated series, shortly afterwards, because it was around that time that it premiered, and I was still of that age though where you couldn't tell from the intro, like, is this live action or is it the animated one? Even though I obviously could, but as a little kid, I was not. So it would always be whatever I didn't want to watch. It was like, oh, it's the live action one. Or, oh, it's the animated one. So, but yeah, so that's how I kind of came to it. It's like he got me interested, cool. and then unintentionally, when Star Wars became very big, my grandparents did not understand the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars, or like my grandmother did. So I always was getting Star Trek stuff. I'm like, okay, the universe is telling me something. So like Star Trek figures and books and stuff. So yeah, that was how it happened.
The same thing happens to me to this day. Like my wonderful family members who learn that I do this thing, they'll occasionally someone will bring me like a Star Wars mug, like a Boba Fett mug or something, and say, "Here, I got this for you. It's Star Trek, right?" And I'm like, "No, not exactly." That's so cool. I love that your grandfather instilled that like kind of, attention to detail and love for technology and stuff like that. Like that's really, really a neat thing.
I think why I find Easter eggs and stuff now, that's probably because of him. Like he would point things out. Oh, I know what that is. That's whatever, a piece from something, or that's a conference phone that we have, and like that's the Cage, I think it was, when it reran in the 80s. And we were watching it together, and it was that thing that Spock's pushing, and it has kind of like a little rounded center point. It looks like it has a speaker almost.
Oh yeah.
Like it's in the very end. And so he's like, oh, that's a teleconference machine. So there's like all these little things. I'm like, oh, that's cool. But that made it more interesting to me. Even it's like some people find that distracting and like, oh, I don't want to pull it apart, and that breaks the illusion for me. But for me, it's like, ooh, I get to find out even more about like how it was put together. But it doesn't break the story for me.
Yeah, I love it too. And you and a few folks out there make it so much easier for me. I don't have to do any work. I just go to your feeds and like, oh, what did Aaron find this week? What did this person find
Jorg.
this week? So, yeah, Jorg, exactly. And Father does a good job too. You do a good job with those Gornegs, Father. Oh, I pointed the wrong way there. But all that led you to write a book.
Yes. Well, I started with a podcast first,
Right.
and it was one. It was literally. It was like, oh, what's left to talk about? Like it was like I was on Trek FM, and it's like every show had a corresponding podcast. Some of them had more than one. I'm just like, okay, wait, nobody's ever talked about the animated series. Like, oh, like, and either they would say, yeah, nobody really cares about that, or animated series. What are you talking about? Like, people literally didn't know, because we had a poll, like, when did you first watch the animated series, or what did you think about it, or something, and we had to add an option of like, there's an animated series, and that became our tagline at the end of the show. It was like, yes, there is an animated series. So it started with that, and then my friend Rich at Trek Movie, we would write articles and stuff, and just like, we both wanted to do something, official printed Star Trek, and it was just like, we should write an animated series book. And it was literally one of those things, like, there's no way anybody could buy this. It felt like, you come up with something and it's like, that's great, it'll be a passion project that will go nowhere. And when people ask me, it's like, oh, tell me about the process of selling your book so I can sell my book and get information. Like, our process was bonkers, and there's no way it can be repeated. It was just, we put this pitch together. Mike Johnson, who I know through IDW, knew John Van Citters, the person who named after the ship was named after
new
this week
ship
on
just
Lower Decks.
christened. Yeah.
Yes. He's like, I want to see this book. Let me present it to John. I'm like, okay. So we presented to John, and he was like, I really love this. We now have to find somebody to publish it. He goes, it could take a week, it could take a month, it could take a year, it might never happen. So it's like, this was like in October, I think. And so he's like, don't check up with us every week, kind of, just basically, it's like, stop, don't bug me. I'm like, okay.
Like,
so
I'll call you. Don't call me. I'll call you.
Yeah, exactly. So I literally on the phone, I said, I've now put a reminder for, it was like 2017, 2016, or whatever. It was like January 1st, 2016. Contact John, because that was like however many months. Like, he goes, yeah, that's acceptable. Next day, I get an email. He goes, this never happens. It's like, as soon as I hung up talking with you, the publisher from Weldon Owen called and said, hey, do you have anything about the animated Star Trek? It's like, what? It's like, it was just, this is not possible to replicate, I don't think. And so, yeah. And so that was just like, wow, okay. And so then it happened. And then they got taken over in the middle of everything that we were doing, and everything got delayed, and they told us not to work on it because they didn't know what was happening. And then it was like, okay, go, you have 3 weeks or whatever it was. Like, so we should have been working on it, but they kind of didn't want us to, in case it was just, it all fell apart or whatever. But so yeah, so that was our bizarre story.
That's a good story.
Yeah. So I just love it. And then when our art director, we got together, and he was explaining, because we were one of the few people who have ever put together a pitch where, I mocked up the cover and we showed this is what a page would look like. They said, the stuff that we get normally is like, here's a pencil sketch of like, we like these things to be in the book, like just a letter. So it was kind of amazing that, I guess, that we made it. They said we could totally visualize what this book was going to look like, and it looked pretty close to what we had mocked up. There's things that had to change, but he's like, congratulations, you're you're working on a book. It's like, also, condolences, you're working on a book. So it was all the positive and negative stuff that goes with it. So it was an interesting ride, and now I know a lot more if I ever do another one. So.
Excellent. Well, I got to remember, I'll put a link to let me know which link helps you the most. I'll put a link to whatever direct source or whatever. But I know I got mine on Amazon.
Yeah, I think Amazon probably.
Yeah.
But if you have a local bookstore or something, try to get it through them, because
yes.
Open to support
actually.
Local.
Oh, I'm going to my local bookstore, like a local privately owned one this evening. So I'm going to hit up the owner and make sure they carry it if they don't already. That's a great idea. That's how I'm going to get my next one. Thank you.
All right.
Excellent.
Awesome. Comic book stores and stuff have them too sometimes, we've noticed.
Oh, cool.
Somebody sent me a picture from Thailand where they saw it in a bookstore. I'm like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yes. Well, we're glad to have you on. I look forward to hearing your insights. And looks like we have a nice bunch of folks in the audience. Nice to see you there. Jill 47. No funny name today. That's interesting. You got to come up with something. Cake is Eternal is here. We got Joel, yay, nice to see you. Fascists like to be big. That's true, they do. And Uncle Arthur's here. Jeremiah, that's awesome. Lots of cool folks. Springtime. Calm yourself, springtime. And then we have sexvine.info, which I hope I blocked correctly. I apologize for that.
Her loyal viewer.
One of our
That's
loyal,
great.
it's true, one of our loyal viewers. Gentlemen, would one of you like to do the episode summary? I know Father is excited about this episode, so
Yes.
maybe he wants to do it.
Let him.
You're on mute. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I can do the summary if y'all want.
Yes.
But yeah, so this episode, The Infinite Vulcan, famously written by Chekhov actor Walter Koenig. His character is excluded from the animated series, so they let him write one. But the episode, we encounter a planet inhabited by intelligent plant life, an animated plant life, plants that can pull up their roots and walk around. And
I don't know why during your summary I'm hearing "bow, da-na-na-na-na-na, bow." Like, sorry, carry on.
Well, these plant people, the Philosians, they are unfortunately going extinct. They've had dwindling numbers, but they are in luck because a mad scientist from Earth's eugenic wars who has cloned himself a few times and prefers to be in the form of a giant, I guess, because he's a gigantic dude like Apollo. But Caniculus 5, and he is obsessed with not only saving the Philosians, but wants to take it upon himself to save the entire galaxy by having a cloned superior being, an army of them who can
Police force.
enforce peace and justice across the cosmos. And he's like, oh, look, this Vulcan human hybrid would be perfect for that. And so he makes a giant clone of Spock named Spock 2. But then at the end of the episode, he's convinced that actually there's this federation that can take care of all the galactic stuff, and me and Spock 2 will put our minds together and try to help restore the Philosian people and revive their race. And that's the end of the very strange and peculiar episode.
Right on, it's true. What did everyone think about it? Sub Commander, you're new to the animated series. What was your impression of it?
Well, I am pretty new, although this is one that I have seen because this was on a VHS cassette along with More Tribbles that I received as kind of a gag birthday gift in high school. So I have seen this one a bit. Yeah, it's a strange episode. I would love to have seen, like, I know there's famously like 10 drafts of this, or Walter Koenig was annoyed he had to keep rewriting it, so it wasn't a great writing experience for him. And I would love to see how the story kind of added additional elements, all of which, individually maybe are interesting, but don't totally hang together, make a lot of sense. I mean, like Father, he mentioned, why are these guys gigantic? I mean, how did that happen? Or, then just the intelligent plant thing. And then it ends on this kind of weird, humorous note about Sulu and being inscrutable, which is kind of strange. But it's and then the kind of pterodactyl things with them. That's a plant too. I don't know if I buy that, but or whether those aliens, the Agmar, not to be confused.
I think they're like orchid. I think they're like orchid based. Those pterodactyl. I think Joel called them like pterodactyl tentacle things. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they didn't look quite as plant like as Agmar, whose name reminded me of Angmar, the Witch King of the Nazgul.
Oh, right.
But and then he sort of was like, are they peaceful and friendly aliens, or actually this is all a trap? Or they kind of went, they were a little back and forth how they were being characterized. But these things are always fun. So, I enjoyed watching the episode. It seemed like McCoy had a little more to do in this than previous ones, although a lot of it was just saying Spock's about to die. He doesn't have much time left. Oh, and he's still about to die. He's almost dead. This is it. But
and then Sulu dying and not dying. There's a lot of dying and not dying.
Yeah. But it's fun. I liked it. I like the idea of a big Spock. That's kind of amusing. So, yeah.
Spock 2. And we find out that Bones' granddaddy had the best garden in the South during
That's
his
right.
life, and
He invented
his-
Roundup. Yeah.
exactly.
Also later was responsible for deforesting part of
That's
Aaron, what do you think of this episode in the animated series?
It's hard for me to like now say what I think about any of the episodes, which is horrible because like I've basically seen them so many times and pulled them apart. But I always thought that this was just a fun episode. It's goofy. I really actually like the idea of a plant-based life form. I think it's kind of interesting that we don't really see that often. It feels like, and
Right.
it's not any less silly than a silicon-based life form or something like that. And just the idea that plants that get up and move that actually do that, just not that animated. Sorry, pardon the pun. But yeah, I just and the fact that Walter got a chance to write it, and although apparently because Gene sent it back like 100 times or something like that, I think he had 5 final drafts or something that it almost put Walter off of writing for television permanently. Apparently, so he was frustrated with the process. But yeah, I liked it a lot.
That's pretty funny. And Father got to ask Walter Koenig about this episode at Mission Chicago. It's on video. It's kind of it made its rounds when we were there, but that was a really great moment. What did he say, Father? Like what was it that you asked? Remember?
I asked him if anyone told him that they bring back
Spock
the giant
too.
Spock for in Lower Decks, and was it the season 2 opener. Kayshawn his eyes open, but when we see the collector ship, he has in his collection.
Was that the season 2 opener? Or that was the second episode, wasn't it?
It was second. I'm pretty sure, maybe.
I thought the second one was the one with where Boimler gets duplicated. Or is that the same episode?
I'm guessing he didn't know, though. It always seems like he's the last one to know. Poor
But
Walter,
yes, I asked Walter, like, did you know that they brought him back? And he said he didn't know that, but he was very amused and happy. He was like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Good. I do like this episode.
Season
has a
2,
couple...
Strange Energies was the first
Yeah,
one.
That's right.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry, just that it has a couple items of continuity with they mentioned the eugenics wars again, which we hadn't heard since Khan, and the guy's plan is very much aligned with, you would kind of think, the point of the eugenics wars. And then I like that Sulu had a role, and he used to be the botanist or had a botany background,
right? That's great.
His other thing, speaking of intelligent plants, that's right.
He is a jack of all trades. He's a
absolutely
botanist. He's a weapons expert. He is a physicist, and he's a helmsman, and he's a sword fighter. Like, holy moly, Sulu.
That's why Captain
save
Sulu.
some skill sets for someone else.
There's like so much good stuff going on in that Captain Sulu show that never was. For sure. But yeah, it was neat. How do you say his name? Because Jill said like Kirk says it like 5 different ways. Caniclius or Caniclius.
Caniclius 5.
He's from
Caniclius.
Earth of that time. He was one of the eugenics. He was doing this other crazy plot about like eliminating humanity.
They mentioned 250 years, which actually, I guess now that Strange New Worlds is kind of retconned the eugenics war, it's something that happens in the 2020s. So it sounds like that. Oh yeah, that would have been
Picard did, right? Or was it Strange New Worlds that did it?
Strange New Worlds that's where Pike says there is the second American Civil War followed by the eugenics war, and then it turned into World War III.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it looked like it kicked off relatively soon in the 2020s, but
I'm assuming that's all some sort of temporal Cold War shenanigans that caused it to shift around or something.
This actually lines up better though with what they're saying. 250 years ago would have been around modern day. So that works out more than saying it was in the 1990s. I guess this is the first time they add in that the eugenics war involved like genetic engineering,
right,
and not just old
selective breeding
eugenics. Yeah.
He mentions the Galactic Wars too, which I'd never.
Yeah,
and the depredations of the Romulans. Yeah, he has a whole litany of stuff.
The first mention of the Kazenti. in Star
Right.
Trek.
Which we'll see, I guess.
Yeah,
it's
coming
pretty
up
cool.
very, very soon.
Yeah, so yeah, heavy canon stuff, I guess. What is the Galactic Wars? Like, what was that? I guess was there nothing?
We put that into our data bank as like it's the Galactic Wars, and it was a conflict that was referenced by him. Basically, that's all the information we have. I don't know. It's just
This
like,
is the one and only reference of it, perhaps. Yeah.
Hey,
It's like
there's
in
not-
I've
the
always wondered if it's related to somehow the slavers or something like that. I don't know, like way back
okay.
when basically
Yeah.
all of humanity or all of what is it, life in the galaxy basically started over again. So I'm wondering if
Right.
it's that kind of wiped everything out.
Interesting. And there's also in the Omega Glory a brief reference to the Earth's bacteriological warfare experiments of the late 1990s, and I was never sure if that is that the same thing as eugenics wars or something different. But yeah, it's certainly a bad time to be in the Star Trek universe, the late
Right
20th
now.
century, early 20th. Yeah.
This is also the first time they established that the Federation is 100 years old,
Oh, yeah.
in which eventually we learn it was founded in 2161, which I guess would have been about like 109 years prior to this episode. So that's cool. And then there's some stuff in the animated series that doesn't line up with, I guess, what we later agree is like the actual like history. It's like, when we get to the slaver
Stuff in
weapon,
TOS doesn't line up either. I mean,
yeah, like
Yeah,
in TOS,
inside
like
of
sometimes
itself.
it's 200 years in the future or 300 years in the future. So they were still trying to figure
apparently
out this.
Gene never
stuff
wanted
out.
you to know exactly when it was. It was
When
just
it
supposed to
was.
be in the future, and we weren't supposed to
Right.
know specifically.
I mean, that's smart, but eventually I guess they peg
Yeah,
it down.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
think
all the
people
mysteries
want
were
to like
defined.
have it just be that mysterious. It's like people, I think, like have continuity in time, and especially now, at least.
Uncle Arthur says Spock is the perfect fit for almost any situation. I agree. He's really great. The Philosians remind me of the Shoggoths from the
Oh,
Lovecrafts
goodness. Huh.
in the Mountains of Madness.
Oh.
I have to look that up. I don't know that. Springtime wants to know, Mr. Sharfleet Boy, be honest, is Spock 2 or Big Spock one of your husbands? Yeah, why not? We'll throw him in the. We'll throw him into the
But
husband
Caniculus
collection.
has that outfit that Caniculus has got that very minimal outfit that you might like. So
I wondered about that. Why did these
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
crazy fascists always
Yeah.
end up wearing like just nothing? Like,
just-
there's, like-
I
more
love that
He-Man. Yeah.
I love that Caniculus made a giant Starfleet uniform for Spock 2 to wear, like just in case like we couldn't tell who it was supposed to be.
Well, remember, you haven't got to it yet, but the Starfleet uniform, one of the reasons it also shrinks when they have the episode where they shrink down is that it's made out of xyla. Shoot, it's a specific type of cloth that's made out of like a seaweed kind of a thing. So it's a living thing. So the idea is that it's also it because it's a living life form, it can also shrink just like they did. So maybe when they cloned him, they literally cloned the clothes as well or something somehow. I don't know.
Oh, interesting. Okay, and then it just was expanded to the size that it was. That's cool.
Yeah.
Jill says, "Good thing the green guys didn't come in during the weed spray portion." Yeah, they would.
Granddaddy's weed spray would have got him.
I love that Scotty crafted one that had 3 nozzles, like just to make sure you covered the whole. Like I don't know how it works. He's like,
Yeah.
my technology will work, but I don't know about that stuff Dr. McCoy's concocting. Well, let's get into the visuals here. Where is it? Hold on. Did it work? Oh, there we go. So yeah, written by Walter Koenig. We already said.
It's fun to see his name in the credits, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah.
cool.
The only time you see it in this show.
But I love again, the animated series is just so beautiful, but I love the design of their like city that they beam down near or whatever it is, their like little town. And I love the mobile plant, which kind of it's really cool how it like echoes it was really well designed in my opinion because it echoes like the Philosians themselves. It fits there. Like they have
I think
like
it
these
echoes the
appendages.
Tribble.
Tribble.
Well,
too,
yeah, it also looks like a tribble. I think I wonder if like when it's ready, like all those purple furry things or like fuzz goes like out into the atmosphere or whatever,
Oh, like a
might be something.
dandelion.
Yeah, like a dandelion. That's what I was trying to think. A big purple dandelion.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense because I was like, okay, well, I guess this is a plant. Doesn't really look like one, but yeah.
Cute and deadly. What did you guys think of? I don't know what happened here. My colors are off. That's weird.
It looks fine on our screens. I think.
Oh, it does. Okay. Maybe it's time to get.
I've seen that happen
muted
before.
But yeah, other than that.
Okay, it's time to get a new Mac. My Mac is no longer upgradable, apparently. So so that's it.
Yeah, my old laptop is like that.
Well, I guess there's a proud legacy in TOS of dealing with picking up plants you shouldn't be picking up, like the guy did in the Man Trapper. No, I guess he didn't. They were like saying that he did, and that's how he got the model. Anyway, it reminded me a little bit of that beat. Like, yes, we're highly advanced scientists and explorers, but we still sometimes do dumb stuff, like touch the native stuff that we should probably be leaving alone.
Like an alien or
the apple. There you go, Jill.
Yeah, the apple.
Also, Jill saying Caniclius, pronounce Caniclius. Shatner and McCoy say it wrong. I'm not surprised because what was the old Gamato thing?
I like that name, Caniculus.
Yeah.
Uncle Arthur says, I really want them to redo the animation in something like the quality of Prodigy. We'll probably write that for all. No. Keep it like
I
it
have
is.
a very strong opinion about that.
I hope
maybe
they
like
never
a one-off.
yeah.
That would be kind of a fun, like for a short trek or something like that.
But
I don't know if there's like an appetite. Like I don't know who out there is like, I would totally spend money. I wanna buy that. So, like, unfortunately, that's the only way. The only way we get any Star Trek content is if there's going to be an audience responsive enough to spend money on it.
Yeah. It's funny too because everybody's like, oh, it's Filmation. Everybody always hated Filmation. It's like if you go and read the reviews of TAS when it first came out, they praise like how much better it looks than like Scooby-Doo or something like that because the backgrounds are so well done. And yes, some of the animation is repetitive, but it's not they're not running on the same background over and over again. So there are, and the stories were not, obviously they were better than that too, but it's just, so I think there's a weird retconning of like, oh, it's horrible. Nobody likes it. It's like, no, that's not true. You're comparing it to like the Clone Wars or something like that, or, modern, Prodigy or, whatever, even Lower Decks, but.
I mean, Lower Decks is a little closer in its line drawing style, but I mean, to me, I had those same kind of preconceived notions in my mind, but watching it, I'm like, they really do go out of their way to like create new expressions too and things like that. So yes, I mean, I think when you're producing something and you do, there are time-saving techniques that you have to use. Like there's always a budget. Like we don't always have, as much as
they had like no time to do these things.
Right.
It was like 3 weeks from script to done, It's like,
and they didn't outsource like a lot of animation, especially the last few decades. It's all been done overseas, but this was all done here in the US.
That's the reason Filmation doesn't exist anymore. They refuse to basically ship it overseas and have all of their like these people were our family. It's like we're not going to take jobs away from these people, and so they just closed. So
that's fascinating.
Late 80s. Yeah.
Maybe Filmation can come back one day. That's interesting. That's cool that they took a stand. Sorry they closed though. Yeah. But yeah, what did you guys think of the? I think some of you already said a little bit, but what do you guys think of the Philosians overall? And do they join the Federation letter? Because they're in my book, Worlds of the Federation. So it makes sense that they would. Yeah, they must.
Well, they are in Starfleet. We know that there's at least one serving on the Cerritos in Lower Decks who was mentioned for the second time.
I hope we see her
this week
eventually.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That'd be cool. So I guess, whatever Caniculus 5 and Spock 2 do, they get the race to survive, at least until the time of Lower Decks.
Yeah.
I like their design. I mean,
their design's really cool.
I mean, they do look plant-like.
Asparagus, kind of.
Yes, yeah, or artichoke or something.
Or artichoke, yeah.
And it's that same sort of like tentacles in the round, like we just saw on God, what was the last episode with
The Survivor.
Yeah, exactly that guy. Or it looks a little bit like the thing in Return in Empire Strikes Back that's like working on Luke when he's in the tube. Sorry to cross franchises here, but that little robot thing with I had that action figure, so I remember the arms coming up and down. But I like their design. I thought they looked interesting.
And they have 4 legs or something like that, I think.
Yeah, I think 3 or 4. They're like quadrupedal or something like that. But they're interesting because I wonder. Well, also they're interesting for a lot of reasons. But I wondered if the mirror people eat them just like they eat the Saru's people, like in a salad or something.
The little oil and vinegar.
Down on the side with the sushi from
exactly. To seek out delicious new worlds. Yeah.
What did Dr. McCoy call the dewdrop? Like, what did he say? Like, I'm not gonna let you poke him with some alien dewdrop.
I like that. He hesitated. The way that's edited together is really good because you get the sense that he's trying to think of how do I just even describe this? Just I don't know, alien dewdrop.
Yeah.
I love it. I could picture, DeForest Kelly, if he was there, on set, filming that, the way he would play that, the way the expressions and stuff he would have.
Yeah, totally. I like the sparkle that they put on it just before he injected or gave it to Sulu and brings him back. Emphasizing the dewdrop thing, and then I guess they grow to be gigantic as well because
maybe that's what the whole large size thing is. I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe it would have made more sense in one of the earlier drafts of the script. Why there's this giant size scale to.
So they grow like forests, basically, like the size of giant, like the way trees grow or something. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and trees are old, so maybe if they live to be 100 or 200 years old, they'll be 40 feet tall.
We'll be able to serve on a starship very easily then.
Yeah. Only the young ones can serve.
Well, you could have bonsai and prune them back. Keep them a certain size.
But here, going from Sulu's attack to the Felusian, I don't know, mausoleum, whatever you want to call it. The hall of the ancient dead giant Felusians. And then
unless these are statues for some reason. I don't know.
Then we meet a giant from the eugenics war. It's just so many ideas combined. That's part of what I love about this is the silliness of all these different ideas. And another time that I spoke to Walter Koenig at a convention was he came to a local con here in Austin. I guess it's about a decade ago. But I went to his table and I was able to talk to him and chat with him for a little bit. And we were talking about stuff other than Star Trek. And one of the things I was asking him oh, have you seen anything cool at the convention? And he was like, yeah, I was over there, where the comic book artists are, talking to some of the comic book artists. I'm trying to find an artist for my comic I'm working on. I was like, oh, really? Tell me about that. And Walter Koenig saying oh yeah, it's so crazy. It's, there's these baby vampires in outer space. And he just was naming weird concept after
things
weird,
to come.
all these different crazy things. And I was like, wow, this is
he's done weird comic books before too, I think.
Yeah.
I have one somewhere.
He's funny. A big genre fan. He's big. He loves comics and sci-fi and that kind of thing.
And Bester is his favorite character, even over Chekhov. He loves.
Yeah. He loves to talk Babylon 5.
He's great on Bab 5. Yeah. It's awesome.
Ooh, look at McCoy's rank insignia, his sleeve stripes. Wait, he's a commander on one side and a lieutenant commander on the other. So
I guess Star Trek animation is keeping the traditions alive. Then
he's just got a bunch of corn on his wrist.
This is the second week in a row. I guess we get tentacle subduing monster.
Another tradition in animation.
But yeah, what'd you guys think of those flying? I like to think of them as dragons. I don't know. They look like dragons.
Yeah.
to me.
There's a lot of dragons in the animated series.
That is because Bob loves dragons, like that, dragons and dinosaurs. Those you'll notice that you'll see a lot of that,
okay.
and that's his personal, like, he likes drawing. He has a blog, or did, somewhere, where it's just like every day there was a new drawing. It's like, here's a dinosaur, here's a dragon, here's a dinosaur and a dragon, it's like, so yeah, like that was a personal preference.
Must have loved that He-Man with Dragomir in it.
He worked on that too.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great.
Well, enter Dr. Stavros Caniclius the Fifth or 5. He doesn't, and he basically says, "No luck. You got to leave." And so they go back to the ship, and that's where they concoct. Well, they try a couple things, but that's where they concoct the plan to use weed spray on them. And it works, which is pretty awesome. But I like that they came back to the ship and had to like regroup, and we got a little more collaboration with Scotty. Uhura was involved, and then later, the whole Scotty, I don't understand how like that like narrow beam would drain all the dilithium, but hey, whatever. Like that's fine. It must be some crazy like process to get that information through all that material that was thicker than lead, apparently. So yeah, but I liked all this stuff. What do you guys think?
Yeah, well, it's nice to see them have something, something else to do on board ship, and good old James Doohan doing his third voice of the episode, I guess. His Dr. Caniculus is a dead ringer for when he did Commodore Enright, I think, in the Ultimate Computer. It sounds just like him, but it's and I like that in general in the animated series. I feel like Uhura has more to do. Like she's taking more of an active role, even if it's not a huge role. It's a little more agency there. So yeah, I like that.
She's even taking control of the ship, or command of the ship twice.
Yeah, totally.
When we were discussing the original series episodes every week before we switched over to the animated series, I would always try to point out whenever there were episodes where it's like, oh, look, all 7 of the big 7 are in this episode. And it is cool. Like when you have like Sulu, Scotty, Uhura, like everyone who's sometimes they're in the episode, sometimes they're not. Like I like seeing when they're all there. And I guess we get a lot of that in the animated series. Not with Chekhov, but with the other big 7. And then there, I feel like Chapel also has like more to do in the animated series than she did in the original series, so they kind of beef up her role a little bit. So yeah, I love cutting back to the ship and showing Scotty and Uhura are busy doing things as well.
I noticed also in the wide shot, of course, they did a reuse, but I like that in the background here there is someone else at Spock's station. So that's pretty cool that they like kept continuity like that too as well, because they could have easily I feel like I've seen this shot before too, with Spock maybe in the background. So it was nice that they did little things like that. Yellow phasers, what's up with that? Is that the first time we see yellow phasers?
The original series, it changed colors frequently. Like sometimes it'd be red, sometimes it'd be green.
Blue. I remember the bluish color.
When they did the remaster, they made it blue and everything
all the way.
Okay. My preference is blue, and I wish Strange New Worlds would use blue phasers like they did in Discovery Season 2. But the Enterprise has red phasers on Strange New Worlds. I want blue.
This is also where Nichelle Nichols did the voice of the Enterprise computer instead of Majel Barrett.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right.
Why? Confused.
Yeah, absolutely. The Phylosian ships don't look very practical, but hey.
Are they like grown? Like do they grow their ships?
I like that.
It could be like living. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, maybe because they look like they could fit exactly one of the big Phylosians each. So maybe they go in there and somehow like merge with it. Although the doors are tiny, so
are those doors down there, or are those like exhaust ports for the
I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's a good point. I'm gonna say they're probably exhaust ports, but yeah. like it'd be cool to see these things in action, actually, to see
Yeah,
them flying
this
around.
episode feels like it's like 3 different episodes combined into one.
Well, it
Like
is
these-
his first show thing he ever wrote for television, so it's like, and you also remember have Gene constantly interjecting. I think Gene's actually the one who made everything giant,
right.
because he
Mm.
like, because we can do that. I'm like, okay, but that doesn't make any sense, but sure. And he loved lava. If you see lava anywhere in here, that's Gene. His big thing was lava. You can't do that on regular television.
We don't get live action lava until Star Trek 3.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Good point. Oh my gosh, lava. Now I'll be like paying attention for the lava.
Unless you count Yarnak.
What was Roddenberry's opinion on Star Trek 3? I don't know if I've ever read anything about like his reaction to that, or if there were things he liked or didn't like.
I don't know, actually. It's a good point.
There was a whole episode of Inglorious Treksperts on it where they read a bunch of his memos, and in general he found a lot to not like, I think. But I think he was also a bit frustrated at that point with his involvement. So although he was getting paid, but
Yeah, I hear
Gene
a lot about
Roddenberry
him
hated a
too.
good portion of the scenes in Star Trek 3.
I hear a lot about like his negative reaction to Star Trek 2 and 5 and 6, but I've never heard much about 3.
It's
We'll have to look
interesting
up
because
those
you hear
notes.
him say like, "Oh, I don't consider it canon" or whatever. It's like nobody listens to that. But when they said like he one time randomly said like the animated series wasn't canon, suddenly that became law for everybody. It's like it's not.
Right.
It's not even true.
Yeah, that's actually kind of like I actually fell into that stupid mindset too when I was younger, because someone told me Gene Roddenberry says it's not part of Star Trek. So I was like, okay, fine. But then later I grew up and I was like, I don't care what Gene Roddenberry says.
Well, I remember like all the official media just kept echoing that. Like I would read the Star Trek the magazine, and they did like a whole special 1 month on the animated series. And that was, I had seen some episodes on Nickelodeon, but that was kind of like my first exposure to any like behind the scenes information on the show. But like even in that, they said like, it's like Gene Roddenberry did not wish the show to be part of the Star Trek canon. Mike and Denise Okuda, like they left it out of every version of the encyclopedia they've done. I think they cited it because like that was Gene's wish. But yeah, I was always that same way until I started listening to Aaron show up in all these podcasts everywhere talking about like, no, the animated series actually is canon, and he convinced me. And now I'm
not only that, it's like, how could you abandon such a good story? There's so many good stories.
Yeah, there are. Like
it's like crazy. Like
if you appreciate the original series, then like you owe it to take the animated series.
And you also have like his
seriously.
middle initial and Spock's mom's. There's like a lot of pieces too that have just been used in the that people consider canon, so they came from here. And like every single time we see Spock's childhood now, it's like related to yesteryear.
Yeah, the DS9 writers loved referencing the animated series.
Yeah, it just shows you these things evolve. I mean, the attitudes change about it. I mean, I think although you had very talented people working seriously, particularly the writers, on the show, I think for a lot of years in the 70s through the early 80s, people didn't really take it seriously, or was kind of, forgotten about. And they certainly didn't feel like they had to make anything consistent with it in the movies. But, and as decades have gone by and animation is taken more seriously, there's more references to it and all the newer Star Treks. It's kind of, it's evolved to become canon. And it's just more like kind of, it's kind of what attitudes change. So
well, Gene also had his lawyer whispering in his ear, like, you won't be taken seriously if you're connected to a cartoon.
That's right.
So
He had Grima Wormtongue telling him what to do.
Leonard, is that Leonard Maslish also?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is funny because he got like $1,500 an episode for in TAS in 1970s money.
Yeah,
so it's just like
no joke.
Yeah, it's not canon, but I took a lot of money from it.
Just think how much you could have made if it was canon. My gosh,
yeah,
5,000 an episode.
I think it's funny that the Phylosian leader tricks them both times into thinking that he's going to lead
Yeah.
them to the thing, and like they
For
fall
an asparagus, he's an asshole.
He's
Yeah.
totally a jerk.
It's interesting, like design. I'm sorry, this is completely off topic, but the
Go.
design wise, I noticed that the only thing that doesn't seem to fit the Phylosians are the translators. And I'm wondering if that's something that Canicula's designed or
Yeah.
came from, because it's like, oh, that's
Hmm.
not thematically or like visually similar to anything else that they have. It's also very
Absolutely.
rectangular and angular.
Yeah, interesting.
There was a shot where I saw they put this mask on Spock, but then in another scene he's just covering his mouth, like running away. So I thought that was like funny, and then he's on the floor again. So that was the only like little continuity thing, and I only got to watch this once, so maybe I have to watch it again and really scrutinize it. But that was the only thing that happened that I thought
I think
was
that was
kind
Big
of funny.
Spock. Big Spock was.
Oh, that
covering
was
his
Big
mouth,
Spock
I
covering his
think.
mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he hadn't been introduced yet. Okay, my bad. Good, thank you.
think. Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, they subdue the dragons, and then I think that's when Big Spock and Stavros came out. But well, anyways, I'll have to go back and watch it. But which I won't have a problem with because it's a delightful episode. But I guess he's wearing like Roman type of garb.
Well, it's almost like Spock's kid, like the uniform that he had when he was
Yeah,
Spock's kid
yeah,
in
actually,
yesteryears.
it's
It's
kind
like
of-
maybe that's why he
Yeah,
picked
he's-
Spock.
I'm gonna be giant, and everyone will have to look up at me. So, of course, the most obvious attire to wear would be
Yes, a
a
short
little
skirt.
skirt and nothing else.
He's bigger than Apollo, right? Like when Apollo gets big, he's not even that big. I
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, it's crazy. And Spock too.
It's
is-
probably because it's just there's less material that you have to deal with. It's just like, like if he's by himself, I'm surprised he didn't just walk around naked. But I mean, obviously, you're not going to animate that.
It's true. That's a good point. The Phylosians probably don't care.
No, they're
just
naked.
like- yeah, they're. Oh yeah, they are.
That's
totally-
true.
It's true. It's a good point. Gene's vision, everybody. No.
Yeah.
Joel in the audience says, if I'm 20 feet tall, the big stick I carry can be even huger.
He does carry a big stick.
He does. My son loves Spock 2. Yeah, I love Spock 2 too. I wish we get a little more Spock 2 action somewhere along the lines, or find out how he died and ended up in the collection. That would be
We need a Lost Era show. We need like a show
Hmm.
set in like 2324, and where everyone's wearing monster maroons and they're on like Excelsior and Miranda class starships. And it kind of fills in the gap between Star Trek 6 and Encounter at Farpoint. And they could show the death of Spock 2 there.
Totally, I agree, and hopefully he goes out in a noble death, which I imagine he does. I also love the idea of like Stavos's plan was to create this like super being that was going to be like a conquering type, but Spock's will Spock's mind finally like blossoms within this like clone, and he's so Spock. He's not like interested in any of that, and like it's just so cool to me that they like factored that into it, which was really nice. But we get Uhura sending the information. Oh, I also appreciated that Caligulio seemed to like give up his like fascist sways like so easily. Like once he found out about about the galaxy being at peace and stuff like that. He's just like, well, I don't have any reason to exist anymore.
Yeah, he's a bit of a crackpot, I think. His
Maybe it's
motivations
it's
and
like,
stuff.
Starfleet sounds very authoritarian. Maybe it's like, yeah, I'll fit in there. They seem to have taken over.
And then of course Sulu does his cool move that Kirk talks about later on. Like, you got to teach me that throw. I feel like Captain Kirk, that's totally part of that's in your repertoire too. He was throwing
That should be
Charlie
like
X
the
around
Kirk
like
Fu
that.
book.
Yeah, it's totally part of it as well. So whatever.
I think I
That's funny.
have. I'm not sure where it is.
That was cool. A bunch of folks got those when it came out. I didn't get one. Dayton Ward, thank you.
I got one signed by Dayton Ward.
I'm teasing. I don't expect any of those things. Jill says the plants were fascist before Caniclius even got there. I don't trust that planet. It's true.
Yeah, that was weird too, that they had like basically the same exact goal, and it just happened to work out that he wound up there, and then he was responsible for infecting them, a la War of the Worlds, but then also was trying to help them. And yeah, didn't quite hang together, but
oh my gosh, delivering a huge monster update. That's really funny.
Well, he's got to die. He's got to die in his TOS blue uniform.
But there's no reason there's not a Spock 3.
good point.
Oh
He just cloned before he passed away or something.
That's a really good point.
That's what you do. Like in this episode, like in the story, you have like Spock 2 do like some like big giant heroic sacrifice to like save the Philosians, and it works. But then they're like, oh no, we lost Spock. What are we gonna do now? And then Caniculus 5 is like, behold, Spock 3.
Now
Something did
even
point out,
bigger.
it's like, what happens when he goes through Ponfar? We don't have we need another giant Vulcan organized.
Behold, T'Pring 2.
I would totally see giant T'Pring from Strange New Worlds. That'd be great.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, Bill to bring 2. I love that.
Okay, we have to draw that now.
Yes.
Look at this adorable mind meld going on here with the single finger. It's so cute.
That makes me nervous when I watch that. I'm like scared he's gonna press too hard on that. Just like pop him like a grape or something.
Oh my goodness. Come on, Spock 2 has a gentle touch. I'm sure it's fine. It was very sweet what it was very sweet what Spock says to Jim here though. He's like he says something like after that wonderful speech, don't undo what you were just talking about by being violent. And then he says there's another solution, and it's true. There in fact is. So that was like a sweet moment between them. I also love all these like high angles that they're like doing, where basically everyone's like looking up like this.
They should be smaller, cool. I think, though. Like they still look a little big in frame.
Yeah, I just assume they're using like an 80mm lens or something like that.
That's
like, yeah, like, so, like
sure.
That's how I explain it. And then we get them both give a Vulcan salute. And that is interesting having these two side by side. Spock 1 is definitely a little more pale than Spock 2 appears to be.
There's a whole reason about the colors for that, probably. So.
Indeed. But yeah, so the episode wraps up with a little bit of humor, and we get this awesome awesome wink from Sulu. But yeah, overall just like phenomenal. I thought this was a lot of fun, as you guys said in the beginning, and yeah, just a lot to talk about here. Any final thoughts? We're about at the time. This hour went by so fast, Aaron. You should come on more often. It's like I thought we were just like having so much fun. And audience, thank you for all the fun comments.
I should be able to come next week, I think.
So. Yay! What is next week? The magics of how do you say
Magus, the magics of Magus 2, which is the most metal episode of Star Trek. I said that when we covered yesteryear that like I'm a bit of an oddity. That's only my third favorite TAS episode. There's 2 that I like more than it. One of them is the magics of Magus 2.
Oh, right on.
So I'm really excited to talk about it.
Has anyone done like a metal, like put scenes from that with like metal music?
We've me and my musician friend and collaborator Trenton have talked about either doing a song or maybe like a couple of songs inspired by Magus 2, but
cool.
Haven't done it yet. I can't write music really, but he's pretty good at it. But I'll learn the bass line and play that. But
I love it. Jill says that episode is showing tonight on TOS Saturday night, so that's pretty cool.
That's right. Yeah, they do their
lined up.
For Halloween, they're doing Cat Spa followed by the Magics of Megas 2. So
Right on.
yeah.
Cool.
Right on.
So if you're up at 1 a.m. Eastern time, it's on.
Oh, that's right.
By
That
the way,
was a
happy-
Halloween episode. It was around the same time, I think, when it came out.
Yeah.
Oh, like it was actual Halloween episode. That's
Yeah, it was
like,
it was
Yeah.
around
like
Halloween.
written with the intent of being like the Halloween episode.
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, as you know from being in the audience, we give a silly rating. It doesn't have to mean anything; it just be by the gut. So I'm going to give this episode. This one gets another 10 for me. I just really enjoyed this episode. So I'm going to pass that on to you next, Fathery. What do you say? Final thoughts and any ratings, and also please let folks know what you're doing on Text Track.
Okay, I'm gonna do all of that in the opposite order that you said. So start off talk about Text Trek. Everyone should check out our live shows on Friday nights at 7 p.m. Central. We discuss each new episode of Star Trek. So we just did a big show last night. Aaron was there. We talked about both the Lower
That was a
Deck
long show.
season 3 finale as well as the Prodigy mid-season premiere, and we get 9 more weeks of Prodigy. And then we're going to talk about some Deep Space Nine season 6, hopefully season 7 as well, while we're waiting on Picard season 3 to get out. And you can also listen to us wherever you get your podcast. My final thoughts on this episode. I think this one is a lot of fun if you're willing to roll with the silliness of it and the ridiculousness of it. Don't judge the entire animated series off of like this one episode. It'd be like trying to judge all of the Next Generation off of Riker's silly outfit he wears on Angel 1, showing off his nipple. Like sometimes Star Trek has like some goofy stuff in it, and this is like one of those really goofy episodes, but I think it's kind of fun. In the same spirit I enjoy a lot of the silliness in Lower Decks, I can enjoy the ridiculousness of Caniculus 5 and Spock 2 and the Philosians, and it's cool to have Walter Koenig's Star Trek episode as part of the franchise history. My rating on it, I guess I'll give it a Caniculus 5 out of Spock 2.
You took mine.
Nice. Also, don't forget, guys. Oh, tomorrow, Starfleet Boy normally goes on Sundays to do a discussion at 1 p.m. Eastern, but we are not doing it. But we're doing a discussion on Trek Central, so you can catch Father and I there, and we'll be talking about Star Trek, both Lower Decks and Prodigy. So, and also just news and stuff like that. Who's going to be on with us? Is just you and I solo tomorrow, Father? Do you know?
I think so, but
cool.
we're trying to get Terry Metalis on during a stream. So
Yeah. Oh,
there's
yeah.
always
we'll
there's
add
the hope
him and see if
we get that. Yeah, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he watches and just comments, and he takes questions from us. So we've uncovered a lot of Picard season 3 stuff from Terry.
Yeah. He says he watches on his TV, so he's like tweeting while he's watching the show. So it's kind of a fun way to talk to folks. Sub Commander, what final thoughts? Any rating, and then also let us know what's going on in your world. And I see you're still recovering, so I'm glad you came on again.
Yeah. Still, as I joked with you earlier, I still find myself growing fatigued again. Yeah, it takes a while, but yeah, I don't have anything more to add. I think Fathery summed it up really nicely. This is definitely a gonzo episode of the animated series, but you kind of have to love that. Although looking back on it, I think because this was the only episode I'd seen, and also more troubles, which is fun but very goofy too. That may have been why I didn't try to seek out this series as much as I have in now in later years. So so definitely I agree with Fathery. Don't judge the whole thing by an outing like this, but it's nonetheless fun, and I'll give it a 7 out of 10. If tonight we mentioned TOS Saturday night, they are doing Cat Spa at midnight Eastern time. If you want to live tweet, use the hashtag TOS Saturday night or Sat night, and followed by the Magics of Megas 2. I probably won't be up for that, but now I'm like, since we're doing it next week, maybe it might be kind of fun to watch it that way for the first time. So, yep, that's it for me.
Right on. Aaron, final thoughts. Give us a rating and tell folks what's going on. Are you doing Drawn to Trek? Was it Drawn to Trek or no?
Yeah, not yet. I need to get back to that.
Right.
As some people know, I had like a lot going on in my life.
Yeah,
for, like,
absolutely.
about like next month it'll be a year. So yeah, I'm hoping to get just in time for all of the animated stuff to be over. I'll start it back up. But I think we're also going to cover some of the comic book stuff as well. So
Really cool stuff going on with IDW's the new Star Trek ongoing series with the shows the adventures of Sisko when he returns from the wormhole. Just the first issue just came out.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. I give this 4 out of 5 zucchini noodle dragons.
That is what they are. Oh my gosh, zucchini noodle dragons. Oh my gosh, that's totally what they are.
We got more dragons coming soon. I think there's a dragon in the next episode.
Yeah. Is there?
That's interesting.
Isn't it somewhere in Megas 2 and they're showing all like the when Lucian is showing them all like the weird stuff?
The Quetzalcoatl or
it's
Quetzalcoatl or
what is it?
That's
the planet with the slug people. It's the Eye of the Beholder. Yeah, I was like, what? My brain was like trying to say something completely different. Yeah, Eye of the Beholder, because they were going through all those different environments and like, this is a dragon from such and such a planet, and why is this here? And this water is perfectly clear or clean or whatever. Like, also, why are you drinking it? That was just like they are not smart sometimes when they.
Joel points out that Sarah could have gone for Spock 2 had he known about him to get the Katra, but it wouldn't have been the same Katra. But it's a good backup Katra. Like he would have had like Spock's knowledge up to that point.
Be
like,
missing about 15 years or so.
15 years, yeah. But it's like, well, we couldn't get the original Katra, so let's get the backup.
If only I saved my game, I lost all my progress.
I acclimated Kolinar and became captain of the Enterprise. What? Like, no, I don't have any of this anymore.
You see him sitting on trying to sit into the bridge.
Uncle Arthur says that you asking Walter Koenig about Spock 2 will always be a fond memory for him. So good job.
It was a fond memory for me. That was on my birthday too, so it was especially cool.
Oh.
So I'll think about that every year on my birthday now. Like, oh, remember that time I told Walter Koenig about Lower Decks?
It's a very nice thought. We'll end on that thought. So, folks, thanks so much for joining us. Thank you, Aaron, for coming on. We look forward to having you on.
I had a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah,
excellent. Great. And live long and prosper. Audience, we'll see you next time.